The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has lodged a formal complaint with the World Bank Inspection Panel calling for an investigation into allegations of corruption in the use of loans and funding obtained by Nigeria's federal government and the 36 state governors since 1999. The organization urged the inspection panel to assess whether the bank's management has adhered to its operational policies and procedures in the design, appraisal and execution of all bank-financed projects in Nigeria. SERAP also requested the panel to evaluate the impact of any lapses by the bank's management in effectively implementing these policies on the social and economic rights and well-being of millions of vulnerable Nigerians. This complaint follows a recent report by the Debt Management Office, which revealed a significant rise in Nigeria's total public debt. The debt increased by 24.33 trillion naira in just 3 months, escalating from 97.39 trillion naira, which is approximately $108.23 billion in December 2023, to 121.67 trillion naira, approximately $91.46 billion as of March 31st, 2024. Now, to discuss this further, I'm joined by the Deputy Director of SERAP, Kolawole Oluwadare. Hello, Kolawole. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Hello, good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. All right, so speak to us. What prompted SERAP to file a complaint with the World Bank Inspection Panel at this time?
Thank you very much. This is one of those advocacy initiatives that we take from time to time in the aim to ensure that good governance prevails in Nigeria. Now, this is not the first time we've engaged the World Bank in its dealings and its relationship in terms of the loan disbursement to Nigeria. But this is the first time we're writing to this sort of an objective ombudsman, if you can call it that, the inspection panel of the World Bank. Simply asking that panel to hold the World Bank responsible for the adherence to its own principles, the rules and guidelines, the protocols and the agreements of the World Bank in the disbursement and the use of the loans it has granted in Nigeria since 1999. And this is against the background of rising poverty and the pensions for the Nigerian government, including this administration, to get further loans where they have not satisfied the Nigerian people, and I also believe the World Bank, that the previous loans have been used judiciously. If at all, the poverty, the high rate of poverty in the country, it lends credence to the fact that these loans have not been managed transparently and accountably. And a great deal of these loans might have found their way into private pockets. So the aim is to ensure that the panel holds the World Bank accountable, to ensure that they look into the loans that were granted in the past, and perhaps a bit of forward looking as well, to ensure that future loans pass through the protocols and the various guidelines that guide the operations of the World Bank.
All right, now speaking of these loans, Kolawole, in your view, what are the primary reasons for the continued poverty and hardship among Nigerians despite significant loans from the World Bank?
It's basically lack of transparency and accountability. Perhaps you can call it corruption as well. But lack of transparency and accountability may not necessarily be corruption, but we do know that it enables corruption. So when you look at the huge funds that Nigeria has obtained by way of loans from various agencies and the huge amount of loans that have been granted by the World Bank to Nigeria, you cannot marry that with what you see as, you call it development, but it's more of underdevelopment in Nigeria. So it simply means that it's either these funds were not enough to meet the demands for which they were released, or they found their way into private pockets. And if you look at the records of the World Bank has disbursed loans for 197 projects in the 1970s to Nigeria, ranging from education to security to even food security. And so none of the sectors Nigeria, can you say, is barely even well developed? How much so developing as it were? So that means that the World Bank needs to look at its processes to ensure that they are not just giving money to private individuals under the guise of giving money to ensure the rights of the Nigerian people.
All right, now considering your formal complaint, what steps would you say the World Bank should take to ensure that its operational policies and procedures are effectively followed in Nigeria?
The panel has the power to hold the World Bank accountable to its various operational guidelines, chief among which is the agreement, the articles of agreement of the World Bank itself. And Article 3 is very clear. It makes the World Bank responsible to ensure that entities, countries who have obtained loans from it, use those loans for the purpose for which they are meant. And in this instance, those loans are meant for the socioeconomic development of Nigeria, which means that the Nigerian people are the ultimate beneficiaries. Unfortunately, Nigerians have been the victims over the years also. Don't forget that the debt burden on the country is borne by individuals who would have to pay for it in the future as it stands. So what we want the panel to do is to hold the World Bank responsible, do a bit of retroactive investigation and more forward-looking as well, to ensure that the World Bank now holds Nigeria responsible for the loans he has disbursed since 1999, and to also ensure that any loans going forward also passes through scrutiny. The operational guidelines of the World Bank are made specifically for this purpose, to prevent abuse by the beneficiaries of the loan so that they are used for the people for which they are disbursed. And that is the utmost aim. So you can say that the aim of this intervention is to favor the Nigerian people, to get justice for the wrong use of the loans in the past and to prevent a future occurrence.
Okay. Now, but then how do you think, Kolawole, how do you think that the Nigerian government can improve transparency and accountability, because you did ask for that earlier, in the use of loans and funding facilities?
It's just what it is. It's transparency and accountability, the access to information. And if you're asking within a Nigerian context, based on antecedents and the nuances of governance we've seen since this round of democracy in 1999, I will perhaps say what is most lacking is political will. And that phrase, as simple as it sounds, compounds a whole lot of things. It means that is there an intention for those in public offices to obey the rule of law? Precedent. It means obeying orders of court. It means following due process. It means obeying laws like the Freedom of Information Act that compels government agencies, including the presidency themselves, to make information proactively available to the people. So a good way to start is to disclose. And it's not partial disclosure. For instance, you look at the website of the Debt Management Office, you will see details of the loans taken by Nigeria, either sourced from foreign debt or even local debt. But that is not enough. What about the use of those loans by either the state government, the federal government, the beneficiaries of those loans, the contracts have been awarded, the size of those contracts and the status of those projects? That would meet the threshold of full disclosure. That is how to prevent corruption. Opacity encourages corruption as it were. So what is missing is that political will. And the president needs to be set by the president to ensure that everything about governance is in the open for the people to track, follow, and own. So it ultimately means that the Nigerian people are part of the governance process, not only by voting, but by holding leaders to account by nature of the information that they are to do that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kolawole, for joining us and speaking to us on this.
Thank you very much.